Mike, we had a very interesting conversation before we, come here for the interview. And I'm very honored to be speaking to you because to me, in my last 15 years of tracking, watching, monitoring, and being participant in the Indian startup story, I have not met someone who's been part of 3 IPOs, who's actually co-led 3 very successful IPOs, and one which I would say historically is one of the biggest software IPOs in the world, which is of Snowflake. Tell us, what does it mean? What does it take to, take 3 companies to an IPO?
I would say everyone has this misconception that it's hard to take a company public. It's actually easy. It's just time consuming. And it's the most important piece is really having the right company with the right product, and a company that is scaling is the important piece in that as well too. And it's not one individual, it's a team of people, because it really is teamwork to do that. And a lot of people forget too, being public, the IPO process, it comes and goes very quickly. And then you have to operate as a public company. And what a lot of people don't realize is, and this is at the New York Stock Exchange, I remember when ServiceNow went public, I was sitting there with the president of the New York Stock Exchange before we opened for trading. And he said, this is a historic moment. Not because this is the day you're going public, it's because you're going to see 90% of your growth in value in this company is going to be post being public. And this is just a point in time in your journey, and remember that. And I think a lot of people forget that.
Yeah, but it is a very significant point in the journey, but it takes a lot to get to that journey also.
Yeah.
Mike, tell us, because you've been in this and you've built this and you've gone and done successful IPOs. What does it take? The preparedness. How should a company look at?
Yeah, so the first thing is do you have the scale to be a public company? Because there's a lot of cost to being a public company today. I can't comment specifically on India, but when you're a listed company in the New York or the NASDAQ, there's the cost of D&O insurance, which is really expensive today. There's the cost of your external auditors when they're signing the opinion on those financial statements. There's a lot more legal cost and legal compliance, and there's a lot of costs associated with that. Plus, you need to make sure you're going to be able to report accurately and timely your financials, and so that involves a lot of costs. If you're going to be trading in the United States, you're going to have to make sure you have all your SOX controls and processes in place. And it's a big cost, and a lot of companies aren't prepared for those costs. So I personally don't think if for an American company you should even consider going public until you have a clear path to get to, how are you going to get to $1 billion? I'm not saying you have to be $1 billion in revenue now, but you have a clear path in the next few years since going public to get there. So I personally think the scale today for companies going public with all the costs associated with it, it's in at least the 300 to 500 million range. And the days of when companies went public with 100 million in revenue, those are gone in the United States.
Yeah, I noted down one of the things that you said is that you should be ready with your forecast, your revenue forecast.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, it starts with, when you're a public company, people expect you to give guidance. And you have to have confidence in that guidance. And it's not good enough to just hit the guidance. The public company investors expect you to beat that guidance and raise. And so you may have an internal forecast that says you're going to do 250 million in revenue this quarter. Realistically, and depending on the market you're playing in with your competitors, because most companies, when they go public, they have competitors, you have to look at what are they beating consistently, what do they say they're going to do, and what are they going to do. And if that's a 5% delta, people are going to expect you to have a 5% delta. Yeah. And so if you really think you're going to do 250 at a quarter, you're going to say, I'm going to do 225.
Yeah. Is there something like, you have to time your IPO?
Timing is important in an IPO, but the timing is more important from the standpoint of dilution. Long term, it doesn't really make a difference. Because as I said, 90% of that growth is going to be after. The timing is important that looking at how many companies are going public at that time, because there is still limited capital out there. B, you want to make sure it's tough. Like, as an example, in the United States, we have an election year. And pretty much most bankers are saying if you're going to try to go public this year, it either has to be before September. You may get into the first couple weeks of September. If not, it's going to be post-election. I remember ServiceNow. We went public right after Facebook. And if you remember Facebook back in 2012, Facebook actually, their IPO was not successful.
Yeah.
But look at it today.
Yeah.
That's that growth, by the
Yeah.
way. But that really shut down the IPO market. And we were the first company to go public, tech company to go public after Facebook. We waited a little bit. We waited, I think it was a month or something. We waited, and we just said, you know what, we're ready to go public right now. And if it's another, if we sacrifice a little bit on valuation right now, we're okay to do that because it's such a small piece. Too many people get in an IPO, they get too fixated on the valuation and dilution. Yes, dilution is important, but when you go public, you have to have a public float of at least 8 to 10% so that you can have a liquid market. And so even if you end up, if the price is off by 10%, if you had got the market timing, maybe you could have got 10% higher. It's 1% dilution. That's small in the grand scheme of things in the company.
Yeah, yeah. Like you said, that the product has to be
It all starts with the product. If you don't have a good product, you're not going to be successful.
Yeah. At least I've tracked ServiceNow and, of course, Snowflake, and I read the book Amp It Up. It's phenomenal, the way the company, and Snowflake, I would say in particular, the way the company came together and rallied and things and the changes that were made. Tell us one or two things that you feel very proud of in the way the company shaped up. Because every company is not a static. It scales, it changes, it grows, and you did play a very significant role in making that happen.
Yeah, I would say what I'm probably the most proud of is the people at Snowflake, the people that we brought on, the people who were there before, and their commitment to customers. We're a very customer-centric company. It's all about the customer, and we firmly believe that if you treat the customer right, you're going to be successful. And as I was mentioning to you before, is we believe is customer first. You take care of your customers, it's going to go to the benefit of your investors, and all the employees are going to get the benefit of that as well too.
Yeah, yeah.
If I could say one other thing about an IPO that's super important too, is, when companies, and there was a lot of press on this, and I disagree with a lot of the people, I'm not going to give names, who talk about this, that, when the stock of an IPO pops, and people always think, oh, the bankers did a terrible job in pricing the company. Look at all the money they left on the table. Well, personally, a pop in the stock price is really good. And the reason it's really good is employees feel really good, like they're with a winning company.
Yeah.
It also attracts people. If you're in a business that you're going to have to hire people, people want to go to successful companies. And rightly or wrongly, people view stock performance with being successful or not. And that IPO pop really makes employees feel good. They start talking about it with their friends, and it causes a great funnel of potential candidates to come work at the company. But what it also does too is when there's good publicity about going public, it helps with customers as well too. So I view the IPO more importantly as a great marketing opportunity for a company. And it's important definitely if you're a consumer company, I think it's important, but it's just as important too if it's an enterprise software company and the decision to buy your product is within the C-suite because it impacts so many people in the company. A lot of most C-suites, they follow what's happening in the public markets and stuff, and it's a great branding exercise for the company.
Yeah. Did you see any significant change pre and post IPO when it came to the company, to the culture, to the team?
Yeah, no, I really didn't see any change in that at all. Sure, as when we went public, we've grown and we've had to add a lot of people, but we're very selective in the people we hire because we don't want to change that culture.
Yeah.
Now, you always make some bad hires, but as I always say, you need to fail fast. If someone's going to fail and they're not going to work out, just move on. And it's best for that person, and it's also best for your other employees in the company too.
Mike, if I have to ask you today, what has been, I know you can't bucket this answer, but what has been the most meaningful part of your journey so far?
At Snowflake,
Yeah?
going public in the sense that the most rewarding thing was getting Berkshire Hathaway to invest in the company and getting Berkshire Hathaway to put their name on the cover of the S1. That was the first time ever that Berkshire had their name on the cover as a lead investor in an IPO. And I almost cost the company and them as an investor as well, too. So that's what I'm the most proud of. It was interesting, at the 11th hour, they decided they didn't want to have their name on the cover because it's not an SEC requirement to have that. And I remember I told them, I said, I know, but it's our requirement, and take it or leave it. And I remember when I had that conversation with the people there, when we hung up the phone, I called Frank and I said, Frank, I think I just cost us Berkshire Hathaway. But they came back.
Wow.
They wanted to be part of the IPO. And so that I was pretty proud that an investor of their stature would want to be associated with Snowflake.
Yeah, this is meaningful and this is memorable.
Yes,
This is
yes.
part of
Yes.
creating history. Yeah?
Yes.
Yes. And last, I would say, from your journey, Mike, if, what would you like to tell all of us, to a lot, and a lot of entrepreneurs and people starting up, because last few years have also not been easy. We've all come out of pandemic. It has been hard for businesses because we saw certain growth in 2021 and after that 22, 23, especially in the startup ecosystem here in India, has also been a little, we felt the pressure. What would you say, and what could we pick up from your journey?
Well, I would just tell most founders or aspiring founders is pick a market that's a big market. Pick a market where the competition is ripe for disruption, and be patient. It's hard work. You got to put your head down, and there's a lot of work to building a company from scratch. And I admire founders. The founders of Snowflake, Benoit and Thierry, are the two most humble people. They're still in the office every day. Fred Luddy at Snowflake was just a grinder. I've been very fortunate that I joined the company where there was market fit, they had a product, and revenue was there. It's a lot harder when you start with employee number 1 and 2 and from a concept to build it into a product. And don't give up. That first sale is the hardest sale, and the next one gets easier, and the next one gets easier. And it's just a lot of hard work, and it's determination, and just put your head down.
And if I may ask, after 3 IPOs, what more history are you going to create? What's new?
At this stage in my life, I would say in data domain, I really had to roll my sleeves up to do a lot of things, and it was really long hours. At ServiceNow, I had a better team, and I'll give it an American football analogy. In data domain, I played both sides of the field, offense and defense, all the time working. In ServiceNow, I was more of the quarterback. I still was actively involved in the game and doing things, but I had a lot of people around me to help me. And in the Snowflake case, it was a little bigger company, and I had good people with me, and I played more the coach. I was there to help them. I was there to guide them. And at this stage in my life, I try to give back. Most rewarding thing for me now is to have people who have worked for me become successful CFOs. I think I have 7 people who worked for me are CFOs, 4 are CFOs of public companies, I think. And that's rewarding. I have a team of people. I would like to see every one of them become a CFO if that's what they want to do.
Yeah. Mike, I'm genuinely very inspired, because not only I see a very successful professional of a very successful enterprise software company in the world, but I also see a very humble, I see a lot of humility, I see a lot of goodness. And for me, it's also a reminder, and for all of us watching, is that very good people also go on to make and create history.
Yeah, I think I did not come from a lot of means. My father was an immigrant to Canada. He came from Italy in 1953 at 15 and literally went to work digging trenches for putting piping in. And he worked his way up and he became, I would say, middle class, but through hard work. And there's not a job that I have asked people to do that I haven't done. Wow. I started working at a very young age, had to pay my way through college, and I always had a little bit of a chip on my shoulders and had to pray. And that motivated me, though, to do better. I just hope my kids are as motivated, and I try to keep them grounded as well, too. And I really think it's important that people stay grounded, and, and treat people how you want to be treated. So.
Yeah, I'm picking this from you. I am, because it's always very inspiring, right? Like we are all leading our own lives and we get so caught up in our own journey. So it's always good to have a conversation with someone like you, because Mike, again, I'm saying 3 IPOs, and I just don't want to, again, please don't think that I'm bucketing it into it. But yes, these are milestones, and these we understand would have required a lot of effort, the journey you're making. And now that you're helping a lot of people, truly inspired. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think there was a lot of luck in there as well, too. So,
yeah, see, that's your humility. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.